Coach John Mosley. How you doing, sir?
Doing well, man. Doing well. It's been like a year, man, since we connected
Right.
last time, man. But yeah. Just
Well,
heading back from a road trip. Just got back at about 1 o'clock last night. Had a game early yesterday. So.
oh wow. Well, it's always an honor to speak to you. Thank you for coming on the Rematch, basketballnews.com and Fly TV. I watched Second Chance U, binged it in like 2 days. You know what I mean? Couldn't put it down. And it was really great to see, the whole team in action. So I have so many different questions for you. I put on social media different questions that other people would like for me to ask you, and I got a lot of feedback. So we'll get to that too. But the first question I want to ask you is, what were some of the differences between this group and the group that we saw in season 1 with Joe Hampton and Deshaun Hyler and KJ and Malik and that whole group? What were some of the differences in this new group?
Well, that first group, it had a better relationship in the sense I've known those guys for 2-3 years and had a chance to learn them and kind of know the ins and outs and how I can kind of coach them. And the second group, as you watch the shows, you see, man, I'm sitting there trying to figure guys out. I'm trying to figure out what screws to turn, how to poke at them, learning about guys. As we spoke about Josh in there. I'm like, wow, because as we come off, it's the summer. They still hadn't let us back on campus. And so you walk right into the fall with all these new guys who I just know on Zoom. I don't have as much relationship with. We jump right into the season. And so it's like fast-paced, trying to learn them, trying to teach them, try to break them down, try to build them up. And there's just so much that we were consumed with. Everybody would look at the results and say, well, we didn't have as good as the results as we had last time. But there was a lot to learn, and part of it was because there was just so much to learn of each other. And as I said at the end, we still didn't get a chance to finish. And some of them were there with me only just the fall. They come in the fall, and we're just trying to learn each other. We're trying to grow. We're trying to figure it all out. And we did the best that we can do, and they moved on. But I think we've all learned, and we got what we came to get out of the junior college experience. But that was a difference. And I think the from a show perspective, they got the beginning and the end. Last time they came right in the middle, and the team was kind of developed. We kind of knew already the guys, and I kind of knew how to handle all the guys. But this year, it kind of showed how we had to progress through, and it showed the beginning with the grind. And I'm just I'm turning the screws, and then at the end, we kind of mature and we get into a point where we kind of riding the wave at the end.
One of the things, the first season, the way it ended with the pandemic pretty much shutting everything down, and everybody felt so bad for them. Explain how crushing that was for them to not be able to finish in the way that they wanted to finish, and y'all were really rolling. Explain how crushing that was.
Well, for a lot of these young men, especially these black men, their whole existence is based on how well I perform in basketball to get a scholarship, to move on to play pro ball. Their whole existence since they were little is surrounded by that. They have no support in any other areas. Nobody's teaching them about, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start real estate here in the 8th grade, and you're going to build. They're starting with basketball, and that's their means of, if they see success in basketball, if they see this, if they see that, based on their understanding that they're successful and they're moving forward and they're making progress.
Right.
And from this point in their lives, they have seen progress or successes or failures since they've been in the 8th, 9th, 10th grade. And it's based on winning and losing, and it's based on getting scholarships, and it's based on progression in basketball. So that's their benchmark for success. And for that to be taken away, and for them to be in a position where we finally work, we see the light, we're getting along, we have growth, and then for it to come to an end and they have no control over it. It has nothing to do with, if I make a jump stop, then I'm going to move over and move on in life. If I make this shot, if I play defense hard, if I rebound well, if I listen to coach, if I do all of that, I'm moving on in life. Then life is good. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And for it to be abruptly stopped by nobody had control over it. I didn't have control over it. The teacher didn't have control over it. Everything that they actually essentially can control, they lost control over it. And I did too. I usually have an answer. And they didn't. They looked at me and said, okay, coach, now we're listening to you. What's the answer?
Right.
I didn't have an answer either. The world didn't have an answer. And it was just unfair. But you know what? Just like everything else, man, they had to deal with it.
Right.
They had to deal with it. But that's a nightmare of a lesson, because I essentially thought that they did everything they were supposed to do. And they learned, they turned the corner. And for me, I wanted to show them, like, when you do what you're supposed to do, look what happens. Good happens.
Right.
And it didn't. Good was supposed to happen in a sense from a basketball standpoint. Good is happening with those guys now. They moved on. They got their college degrees and all that. But good is supposed to happen coming out, from basketball that season, and it just abruptly stopped. And so my heart went out to them. I could care less, man. I mean, I cared, but I get another chance. Like, I get another chance now. Our team now is good. I'm like, you know what? We're going to be better than the team on Last Chance U2, I think.
Right.
So I get a chance, but they don't get another chance.
And so in the second season, it was also affected by COVID. Coach Ken Hunter just said that, if y'all had about maybe 10 kids, what do you say, 10, 11 kids who would have been Division I, had it not been for the pandemic. And that was really, when he said that, people don't really understand how much the pandemic really affected college athletes who were right in that era where they're about to go to college. My AAU team, that I talked about a lot of times before, they were affected by that as well. I wasn't able to coach them the last 2 seasons, and it hurt a lot of them. So when you saw the guys get, a lot of them tested positive. I don't remember. I think it was episode 5, maybe. They all tested positive. Were you thinking, oh, Lord, not again? We're going to get shut down. You know what I mean? Like, what was going through your mind then?
There were teams that had to cancel games, and we were fortunate we were one that did. We had a strategy, but even then, with any type of strategy, these testing, you had testings that were false positives, and it was just a nightmare. But there was a certain amount that you couldn't have, or you would be shut down. And then once you're shut down like 7 days, and then there's a 7-day. You can almost be shut down for 14 days for having a positive and no symptoms. You could be shut down for having positive with no symptoms and be shut down 7 to 14 days. Right. And now you're talking about all these opportunities where we build momentum to play well. That affected us going into continue to develop our team. That held some power over me. Right. That held power over me. I could not control the dynamics of the accountability. I couldn't control accountability. It was hard to do because the guys can pop in and pop out differently than before. If a guy is sick, 2 guys are sick, I'm like, stay at home. And now there's accountability issues that affect your team. And I'm sure everybody in the country dealt with that. But there was just this panic of, okay, now you got the pandemic, you have guys that are even at the next level that are there 5, 6, 7 years. I know there's cases where guys are there 7 years. There's a small person, 7 years. And so there's scholarships that are not available. And then I have these guys that are playing and not playing. And then we get to the end and maybe we don't have success. Maybe we do. We didn't win the game. And so it was really, for me, I don't know if they felt the stress as much as I felt the stress because I knew the landscape and I could hear the college coaches, less, they had more of the pick of the litter ladder. Like last year and the year prior, they had the pick of the litter because they're in the transfer portal. Plus they have returning seniors, like they return COVID seniors. And then you had a scenario where a kid walks through the door, he red shirts, pre-pandemic. It's got his year. Next year, the kid, has a career-ending or a season-ending injury. So again, he gets a hardship red shirt. Then the kid plays his sophomore year, plays his freshman year, plays his junior year. Pandemic hits, he gets another year. So you're talking about some kids got 7 years of basketball, and it left the kids, like a high school kid or a junior college kid, to come in. They're like, you know what, I'll just take the kid who's got 7 years and more experience. And so it kind of left a backlog, and it still is leaving a backlog. My son's a senior right now, and he's having an issue. You know, I believe he's a Division I player. He's got Division II offers. He's got one Division I offer. But the fact of the matter is they're looking like, well, we still got guys that are 6 years in, and we can take kids out of the portal because of the way the pandemic and the NCAA just slammed everybody, just kind of screwed it up and just left it loose. And it's kind of like we're high and dry. The NCAA just left us high and dry. Like, what do we do? What do the high school kids do? There's no answers right now.
Right.
There's absolutely no answers. They just, like, you guys figure it out. Hopefully you guys get a scholarship. And, you know, the students that benefited are the ones that were already in college. Mm-hmm. Those are the students that already been – the ones that already had scholarships benefited. They're playing 5 and 6 years. But the student athletes are left impacted in – they're just impacted in the prep schools now or in junior colleges. Right. The ones that didn't get scholarships out of high school. And so we're loaded. The parity actually in California for junior college is a lot better because we're like loaded with kids, and the prep schools are loaded, and there's these startup prep schools, and so it's impacted. And so I don't think it would subside until, you know, for another 2 years.
Right.
We get rid of some of the 6 and 7 year guys.
And, you know, you talked about the stigma of junior college, you know, on season 2, and how you want them to have that same chip on their shoulder, that same sense of urgency that you just talked about, and knowing the dynamic and how the landscape has changed and everything like that. And you're like trying to project the intensity and the awareness of what the situation is and the sense of urgency to the players sometimes. And it's like it's bubbling over, but it seems like they're not feeling the same urgency as the situation should call for. And I saw a lot of the different reviews. Actually, my former teammate, Nick Young, I can't call him Swaggy P. I can't call him that. But Nick Young, I think he tweeted right after. He was like, dang. He was like, coach is like, I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, dang, he's having them run like, miles and miles and punishing them? Is he being kind of hard on them? But a lot of people were saying, is he being kind of hard on them? But I saw it as, kind of stepped up because of everything that you just described, as a sense of urgency, because the whole dynamic has changed. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Really, I go in every day when I see lack of effort or lack of performance. It's like people ask me, they say, oh, you're a great coach. I say, man, I'm just trying to infuse this level of urgency that you got to get out. If that means diving on the floor, if that means doing this, doing that, whatever it is, changing body language, changing responses, whatever it is to get out. And this is not just about basketball. Like, we in this cold world, man, you got to change and learn how to respond to adversity. You got to learn how to fight through adversity. And that's the preparation. And realize that there are consequences for your poor response. Mm-hmm. There's going to be consequences. And guess what? I'm going to do those consequences, and then I'm going to love you right afterwards. And I'm doing it out of love. And I'm not going to kick you out and push you out, but I'm going to continue to hold you accountable to your response, to your effort, to all of that. And then we're going to smile, and I'm going to still love you. But when you get out there in the world, the next level, a lot of these, the upper end of the Division I coaches, they're millionaires, man. Right. That response right there, oh, you're out of the door. I'm a millionaire. I'm not losing my contract because you want to pout. It's not happening. Mm-hmm. And there's just something in me that just flips. I was one of those kids. I had poor responses, and I lost opportunities because of poor responses. And there was nobody there to tell me, like, you lost the opportunity because of your poor response. I look back and I was like, dang, man, I screwed that opportunity up. Why didn't anybody tell me? Why was I screwed up like that? Why wasn't I responding the right way? I was like, Mosley, John, what are you doing? Right. And so now I'm so cautious, and I'm like, okay, nobody told you, nobody taught you. Maybe you didn't have that strong male in your life. And I still believe that's one of the most important things is we need men to teach men, And no offense, and I know it's controversial, but there's a lot of single moms out there that do a phenomenal job. But I still think it takes a man to teach a man how to be a man. And there's just a lot that has to be learned about responding, how a man responds, or how a man would need to respond, or I would say a mature and a good man, because there are some men that they haven't figured it out as well. But
Right.
how a responsible man responds, bro, let me show you how you're gonna have to respond.
Right.
Because when we look on the other side, there's a lot of people that don't look like you. They're gonna stereotype you based on your response.
Of course.
I got a young man right now. Man, this dude is a baller. He can pout and complain, but when he step on the court, he's competitive. And I know that. And he'll pout, he gets in foul trouble, and he pouts and complains, and he responds a different way. And that's based on the way he grew up in his environment and in that environment. But I'm saying, bro, I know you a baller. I know when I plug you on the court, you're gonna help us win. But you can't respond because there's a group, there's people that don't look like you that will take that the wrong way, and you'll lose opportunities. And so, man, I'm trying to instill that in the guys. And the guys was like, what, coach? We still hooping. I still got game. Yeah. But in life, bro, you got to respond a certain way. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get to them, man, because I lost some opportunities responding the wrong way. I was read wrong. And I said, man, they're going to read you wrong, man. They don't come from where you come from. So you got to change your response. And sometimes you got to conform. I'm not saying completely sell out, but you have to conform to your environment. And that's kind of the message, man. And that's kind of the message.
I mean, it's such an important message. I had to learn it myself. And I was, what you was referring earlier to, single parent household. I grew up in a single parent household. I had a relationship with my father, visitations once or twice a month, parents were divorced, but in the home was just my mother. So it was important for me to have mentors outside of the home, male mentors. My high school AAU coach, Reverend Potter, my coach at Syracuse, Lewis Orr, who just passed away. And that was like, I needed that discipline to be able to learn how to respond and how not to respond. And that is something that, young brothers need. You can't be emotional with everything. You can't show a reaction because there's something that happens that you don't like. Sometimes you only have to say, yes, sir, and do it. You know what I mean? And it's a really learned trait. You have to be taught that. It's not something that you're just going to know how to do. And why it's so important that what you was doing, what you're showing in the first episode, where you kept going about how he wasn't responding the right way. And he was like, what? I'm like, and he kept talking. And then, and it's funny because I'm watching it with my daughter, and she's heard me. She's like, well, he just shut up. You know what I mean? Like, she was like, well, he just be quiet. Her same reaction that she had with Joe Hampton. But she was the same way. Well, he just stopped talking. Just, yes, sir, and be quiet. And he couldn't do it. But I'm glad that it showed that, because it shows how important it is to respond the right way. You have all the talent in the world, but you have to be able to respond. I really thought that was really great for you to show and for you to harp on, because we need that. When I say we, young Black men, we need that type of mentorship. And where we a lot of times get it is from our sports coaches, football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is, coaches. So it's so crucial that you continue doing that.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just one. It's the majority of the group. I mean, they highlight one or two guys, and they do a good job of telling the story and putting the story and progressing through the story. It's one or two guys, but you literally go through about 15 of them. And, there's a handful of guys that have good support at home, and they got good mentors and good, but they all, even with good mentors, it's still, there's a moment where you try to take them to a point. And I try to take them to a point, because I want you to be prepared for what's coming at you, for how your will is going to be, tested. And they're going to try to break you. But I'm going to take you to the point, because you're going to go through some adversity. And you're going to go through some situations where people are trying to test you and trying to break you down. Now, I'm going to get you to that point, but I'm going to love you, and I'm not going to really break you, but I want to make sure you feel what it feels like so you can respond the right way. And at the end, the guys, and I think Deshaun said it in the last episode, he talked about, man, he do some weird stuff, but ultimately the outcomes, they realized like, man, I really see what he was trying to do and how he was trying to prepare us for the next level and trying to prepare us for life. And it's just something in me because that just was me, man. I was that guy. I had enthusiasm, energy, and sometimes I would do too much. I would talk too much. I would say too much. I talked out of line, spoke out of line, all that. And there were some hard lessons in that. Mm-hmm. And so if they can get it out of the way, if they can learn before that, like, no, you can't just say what you want to say because you feel this way. That's fine to have your opinion. That's fine to not want to do it. But there's times that you're going to have to do it if that's what you're called upon, if it's your responsibility. And you're going to have to extend yourself if you want to be successful. If you say you want this, this, and this, then you're going to have to extend yourself. And I'm going to challenge you to do it. And I think that's what us coaches do, man. And that's, there's thousands of us that do it. There's some that take advantage of the coaching opportunity and use it as a power trip or, any of that. And, I just always hoped in my heart nobody saw it that way because I truly love all these young men and wanted to just say, look, I don't get nothing out of it, man. There are some guys that, there's people out there selling players. There's people out there doing, man, I ain't doing all that, man. I just want these dudes to move on and be successful. I get joy, man, if I see them on TV. I just get joy. Man, don't give me no T-shirt or that, man. I just get joy of seeing the success and the chip on my shoulder. The chip on their shoulder, I still see it. Like, I'm going to still win. I'm going to still have success. And I get joy out of that, man.
That's great.
Because there's a lot of us that's falling. There's a lot of, especially young black men or minorities, period, that are falling by the wayside. And it's because of their response, and is it warranted? Yeah, there's warranted a response, but you can't let them get to you. You can't let that response get to you, man. You got to be able to empower yourself and smile and get through it and move forward and look past it. The best revenge of anything is just living well, man. You guys just got to live well. That's your revenge. Don't say screw you and walk out of practice and any of that. No, your revenge is like, yes, coach, put it down, get your college degree, go play pro ball,
right?
Go get a career and live well. If the coach screwed you, if this person is screwing you, all right, I'm going to show you. Put that chip on your shoulder. I'm going to show you. Let me respond in a way like, okay, let me get after it. And that's really, in a sense, how I responded to life after I kind of figured it out. And I want those guys, I kind of carry that and I put that same chip on their shoulder like, no. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get it done.
And once they get that part, you talked about preparing them for their moment. And you said you wanted them to get to the point that because they know how to work, because they're poised, because they're tough, they are ready for their moment in any moment. And I think that's real important because the way you are preparing them in basketball, is a metaphor for life. And you're preparing them for the moment, even in the discipline part and how to be able to respond when you're having an authority figure, whether it's the police or whether you're in school and it's the professor or whatever, you know what I mean? All that is a metaphor for life. But in preparing them, you spend a lot of time on preparation. Talk about how important that is.
Well, you never know. Like, you can kind of casually go through life and you wake up, you brush your teeth, you get your workout in, you go to your job, you just day by day. But there's a moment that everybody's looking for. Well, I want a promotion, or I want a new job, or I want a Division I scholarship, or I want this, or I want that. I've seen it over and over again. And this is based on experiences. I see a guy, he kind of, he's kind of inconsistent with how he works and how he practices. And then an opportunity comes where a school that's perfect for him, a good mid-major school that's perfect for him, is there to watch him. And you know what? It's no guarantee that you're going to perform. Mm-hmm. But if you take every single day 100% and you work and grind it every single day, you have a better chance of performing in that moment than if you taking days off and if you taking reps off. And so I tell the guys, we have certain drills. There's a kid told me one time, we were just in practice, and he threw a bad pass. I say no side passes, turn and pass with your hips, straight line pass. And he turned the ball over and he said, Coach, it's just one pass. I went off. I said, one pass. That can be the pass that the college coach is there, and he's like, oh, no, that could be the pass that changes the trajectory of your life. It could be a turnover, and we could lose in the playoffs, and now the next game we don't get to, another 5 college coaches was there, and you got 5 offers because you played well in that game. Mm-hmm. So preparing yourself for that one moment. To me, that one pass every day in practice matters. That one sprint every day matters because you sprinting to the corner every day, spotting up. If you keep doing it, well, Coach, he's not passing me the ball. I'm sprinting to the corner. The point guard is not looking up. But if you sprint, and you make it a habit and you make that your lifestyle, if you make that your lifestyle on sprinting, guess what? The one time that he looks up, it may be the time that you got a chance to win the game-winning shot. But if it's not a habit to sprint to the corner and be there when your moment comes, then you may miss the opportunity. It's a chance you miss it because you haven't created the habit of always pursuing excellence. So it's a habit of pursuing excellence for when your time comes to be on the stage, then it's already a habit to be excellent. You don't have to try like, okay, I got to be good now. I got to turn it on now because the coach is here. Right. You got to make it a habit. And you know what? It's a chance that you may not get your moment. But if you do, I think everybody gets a moment. You want to be prepared. And even if you prepared, the scary part about it is you may play 99% of the time great, and then your one moment, it might not happen. Mm-hmm. But you give yourself a chance, man. And that's a tough reality. That's a tough reality. And so I'm telling them, man, we had a game yesterday in the scouting report. We were watching the film and we were watching how all the teams let the best player catch the ball all the time. I'm like, dude, he catches it all the time. So 50% of the time he'll miss, 50% of the time something good's got to happen. He either gets fouled or make the bucket. How about if we say, let's not let him catch the ball, and now he catches it 50% of the time, and now we chop that in half. Mm-hmm. Now 25% of the time something good happens for him. Mm-hmm. The other 25%, something bad happens. So now we're looking at 25% production versus 50% production from the best player. And we were talking about it again. We were like, oh, yeah, you're right. So we just try to take away all catches. He might catch it 50% of the time and then chop that in half, and now that's 25%. And so we talk about those numbers in terms of, hey, man, you want to be 100% on in your preparation because chances are you're going to fall by the wayside a little bit when the lights are on, but at least you got a 50% chance to be great.
That's true. That's true. Let's talk about some of the players in particular from season 2. I think that, I think that every middle school and high school athlete should watch this show and pay close attention because they can learn from the stories. Some stories are inspirational. Sometimes you can learn from their mistakes, not to go that route that they went to and everything. I'm going to be, watching it with my son, Malcolm. I'm going to do the same thing I did with the first season. I watched it. I talked, my daughter was in there with me a couple times watching it, and I'm going to watch the whole thing with Malcolm, and I'm going to point out different things of each player. So let's start off with Shamar Morrow. And it's interesting, it showed his living situation and, where he was at a young age. You know what I mean? Duncan in the 6th grade, they was comparing him to LeBron, and they showed the mistakes that he made, but the incredible talent that he was. Do you know what I mean? And it's important, so going back to my son, Malcolm, he's a 4-star recruit. He gets all that stuff, and he ranked here and they do there. And I'm not a big fan of the rankings. I'm a little old school. I'm not a big fan of that. But I think it shows where sometimes they put rankings on kids so young. I've seen young cats ranked. I'm like, why are you ranking, 12-year-olds now? You know what I mean? I think it's ridiculous, but it's important to show how important it is to take care of all of your business on and off the court, to stay hungry and all of that different stuff. But talk to me about Shamar Morrow. How do you pronounce his name? Morrow?
Yeah, Morrow. Yeah.
Shamar Morrow, and your relationship with him, how you saw him grow. You know, he wasn't playing that much, you know, in this season. That, you know, but he's an incredible talent. Talk about his growth and everything. Your relationship with him.
Well, here's the beauty of what we're doing, and you know, the show right now actually is not going to tell his whole story. So right now, Shamar is redshirting because it's the best thing for him. I can't just rush him out the door. And I shared on many occasions that Shamar needs to just sit down and be with me. And we need to progress through this slowly. So he comes through the door, like literally the first day, walks through the door just because I think because of our show, someone had introduced me to him and like, you can save this kid. You're the savior. And I'm like, man, I'm not the savior. It's work. You know, the show made it look, you know, it looked like I'm, you know, which is true. I do have a heart for kids. Right. But it doesn't mean it's going to be work. You know, it's not going to be like, oh, I pray for him and now he's saved and he's moved on and he's going to the NBA. Right. There's a lot of layers to peel away, starting from, like you said, being highly ranked. And this is from a kid that already had an unstable background. So you get an unstable background, you're ranked, everybody grabs you and they just parade you around. This kid's going to be great. This kid's going to be great. But the problem in that is there was no development through that. There was no personal development. And unfortunately, there was not as much basketball development. And part of that could be his fault. But part of that comes from instability and having people, your support watching over you. But to just get snatched up and taken around, you know, and don't want to just kind of give away his all of his life, but and embarrass him. But I mean, since the 6th grade, he hasn't been in the same home since the 6th grade. He's kind of been paraded around. He's in this house and he's been kind of used for basketball and then moved to this house and used for basketball. So there was a lot of lack of development. And he was, I believe, and this is just my opinion, and you know, he didn't share that, but I believe that, you know, that's how he felt he had to survive. He had to kind of showcase his basketball skills, show how great he was so that he can eat. And then it's, well, no, I want you on my team. Oh, no, I want you on my team. Oh, and I play for this AAU team. Come to this high school or come out here and play. And so he's in Arizona. He's in California. And then they say, oh, we love you. You come here and you come there. And so he's all over the place. And he never, and that's what he depended on. And I believe that's what he thought, in my opinion, life was. You know, life was, hey, I have to depend on someone else taking care of me. And so when he gets here, he's looking for freebies. And I'm like, well, bro, you didn't graduate from high school, so you can't get the financial aid. And that's how we do it here. In terms of the integrity of the program, we had this growth. And I think God has honored the program because we've done it, you know, the right way. And so he needs financial aid. So he's back and forth at the house. He's coming from Irvine. He's catching Ubers. The young lady was Ubering him here. And then he's squatting at the players' houses like over and over again. Yeah. And what happened was we were trying to get him to where, hey, you need to take your GED. We can get all this done in a month. Get your ID, get your GED. He gets his ID and then he loses it. And then he doesn't get the ID for another 6 months. And we're like, go get your ID. Let's take you there, drop you off. Okay, let's pick you up. Let's go take the GED. Coach Rob goes to pick him up. He said, Coach, man, Shamar didn't disappear, you know. And so we go through these steps of, hey, let's try to get him there. And he was waiting for somebody to just say, no, we see the basketball skills. I said, bro, I don't need your basketball skills. The same thing I told Joe. I don't need you as a player. I'm here to help you. I don't need you as a player. And so I think we're going through that process, and the finished product is not finished because I needed to let him know I don't want you. I don't want you for basketball. I'm here to help you get through it. And he was showcased. He'd come to practice and destroy him. Nah, you didn't show up on time. You didn't show up to get this part of this test done. You didn't take care of this responsibility. I'm not just going to play you to help us win games. I'm not going to do that because we can win games without California Junior College is not that tough. We can win games without you. But what I will do, I see you, he's looking and I'm looking at his eyes. And I think this was the first time that he was not needed basketball wise. This is the first time. In every other case, they just say, well, we just plug and play you and we'll keep going. And, you know, in high school, he was, you know, phenomenal in high school and he played well. But then after that, you know, no graduation, no follow-up on that. This is the first time. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going to play you and I don't need you. He walked through the door again this year. He was like, I'm here. Like, And I'm like, no, bro, slow down. Did we handle our business? Did you get your GED? Did we get this done? You know, and he came and took his GED last week. He took one part. He passed the sociology part. I said, bro, nah, we're not. I said, you know what, bro? And he can't. I said, you're not staying with any players without paying any rent. So I told the players, I said, look, if I find out he stays there, you're suspended in that apartment. Your parents are paying rent. You guys are paying. If I find out he's squatting and staying, you guys are. So he's staying with another buddy that's a ways away. It's tough for him to get here. We're trying to hold him accountable to some responsibilities.
Wow.
And say, if you do this, this, and this, Shamar, then I can do this for you. But I can't until you do this, this, and this. And so now he said, Coach, I got my ID. The whole team was like, oh, he got his ID. Finally, yeah, he got his ID. And I said, all right, now we got to take the test. Because you can't take the GED test until you get your ID. And I said, bro, you missed so much. He was like, Coach, you going to play me if I come? Nope, not playing you. Can't play you if you miss days and miss practice. I said, it's best case to redshirt. And I said, during this redshirt time, do not let anybody tell you, come over here, bro. I said, bro, we're going to get you right. You're going to get the money, because he was deemed homeless in high school. So there's so much, but, you know, which is crazy. There's so much available for him. But if you're a student, you don't get the resources unless you at least have your high school diploma in California. Right. And then he gets all the resources in the world. So that's the goal. He get free housing. He gets all of that. Otherwise, you have to go to the homeless system, which is a homeless shelter. But you can't get those resources if you're in college. If you're in school, it's crazy.
Wow.
You can't get those resources if you're in college. But you can get them if you're in college and you have your GED, and because he's deemed homeless. So that's where we're at with it. But there's trust issues. He doesn't trust anybody. And I told him he's prostituting basketball.
Wow.
And I hate to be graphic, but it's almost like from a prostitute standpoint, she's appealing. You go to some of the places like Vegas or Hawaii, you see them walking around, they look a little better. You know, it's not like out here in California it's not a strawberry, but they look appealing and they're trying to share their sex appeal. He's right. Prostituting basketball. I'm like, man, this kid is phenomenal.
Wow. And
then he gets what he wants. He gets the players let him squat. He gets something to eat. He gets food. He gets a teacher to like him and all that, and he prostitutes. And then when you're like, no, man, you're not handling your business. And then he opens his basketball legs up again, and you're like, oh, man. And it's like he's prostituting basketball because he's special.
Wow.
And that's what comes to mind when I see him. And I'm saying, bro, you're not going to prostitute basketball. I don't want your basketball. I want your life right. And so I think I was the first one to be able to do that.
Sure.
Because I don't need him to win, because California, it's not a national juke. The national jukes, you gotta have some horses. Right. So I don't need him like that. And so I'm like, I can truly help him. And I'm looking at his eyes, and he's just like Deshaun, just like Joe. I did the same thing with Joe. Joe came in, I need you. Joe, I don't have nothing for you. Being a 4-star, he's used to people, taking care of him. Well, I need some bus fare. I need that. Bro, I'm not handing you nothing. Here's how I can get you the resources that you need. And Joe went about that way. And I think that helped Joe because I didn't give him anything for being a great player. And the same thing with Shamar is happening right now. And he's going through that. And if he hangs in there, Shamar could possibly be where. And Shamar, I just tell Shamar, don't sell out to anybody saying, Coach Mosley, man, he should be playing you. Don't sell out to that, bro. Stay here. And I talked to him. I'm like, bro, you're going to make it. Because what I'm teaching you is how to survive without people loving you for basketball.
Right.
And then you can walk into any situation, kill on the basketball court, and say, you know what? I'm going to kill on the court, and I don't need you. Right now he's saying I'm going to kill because I need y'all to love me. I need love. I need you guys to give me money. I need you guys to give me something. So that's what he's playing for instead of playing for himself.
Wow. That is amazing. He could have his own show just based on him, to be honest with you, his own documentary, especially starting from when he was, in 6th grade and they was, blowing him up and all the accolades and everything like that to the end of the journey, after he comes back from being redshirt. I would love to see that. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. So let's move on to Brian Penn in his journey. Was 6'11", 7-footer.
He's a legit 7'1".
He's a legit 7'1", legit 7'1". He went to Washington, and he went to LSU. And it's interesting seeing. It seems like it only didn't work out with LSU because of I guess he wasn't handling his business in the classroom for whatever class, and you fail, and then you're not ineligible, then they have no need for you. So it seemed like that's what happened at LSU, and then in Washington, it seemed like it wasn't working out. He was playing behind some big time players. I know Isaiah Stewart was there, and I forgot the other big man name, but he was there. So it was just the transfer portal now. Guys just can leave a little bit easier than they could back in my day. You know what I mean? They don't have to sit out. There's no penalty and things of that nature. But talk about his journey and because you had a little bit of run-ins with him, especially in the beginning. He was the one who wasn't responding the right way, who we was talking about before. But such an incredible talent, such a physical specimen. But he was always that physical specimen. But then he had to mature. You know what I mean? People look at a big 6'11", 7'1", player, and he's 16 years old, 15 years old, and they treat him as if he's already has the maturity of an adult, but he doesn't yet. But talk about that aspect in Brian Penn as well.
Yeah, just man, and some people handle expectations differently than others, and you got to have the right support system. You got to have him being homeless and going through all that. You got to have the right support system to be able to handle those expectations. You look at a kid like your son, or you look at Bronny, and to be able to handle those expectations, you have to have great support system, and you have to have a little bit of stability, and to be 7 foot and to have these expectations that he's mature, because he's, like you said, he's 6'11" in high school. He's already mature. We got this Shaq mentality. I think it's fading away a little bit. All the bigs now want to play like KD, but we got this Shaq mentality, kind of old school guys, where everybody big is supposed to play like that. You're supposed to just dunk and block everything and be physical and just be mean and destroy everybody. Mm-hmm. And not everybody is cut that way. And that's the expectations. And when you don't do it, you're considered a failure. And some of that is probably what he experienced, coming up. And then going through high school, the expectations are there. He goes to the University of Washington, and he had a little bit of an injury. And, of course, there's bodies there. And then he transfers to LSU. And then he struggled academically, and we got him on track here academically. And, my fight with him is, with anybody who walks through the door is like, man, I could care less where you been or where you going. But everybody's going to go through this process to where when you get to the next level, when you get to your next space, you're going to be able to handle adversity. And I tell all of the guys, like I got a kid right now, Division I track, I said, I don't want you to get sent home again. You got sent home because you had the poor response, because you worked, you skipped reps, because of this, because of that. And so we want to make sure that you don't get sent home, and that they don't continue this narrative about you of you don't work hard or you're lazy, or we're going to change this narrative. And so constantly that's the battle with some of the guys, even the Division I returners or guys that come with these high accolades, is we're going to change this narrative. And I say at the beginning, I want to partner with you because I want to have the last laugh with you, because I felt that way. I felt like people was like, yeah, whatever, you're not that good or whatever. And we're going to let them know, like, this is who I am, because they all feel that way. But maybe someone didn't show them how to grind through adversity. Maybe someone didn't show them the work that it takes, or maybe they weren't coached in a certain way that they need to make it to the next level. And so my deal, and him walking through the door as well, is to try to find the best way where I can do that. And ultimately, Brian is highly intelligent. And some guys, they have different passions. Man, that dude is intelligent. He reads and he loves books. And he's, there's some guys that are like, man, it's almost like, man, I'm going to play this game, but the game is not who I am. Right. You know what I'm saying? I'm Brian Penn Johnson. I'm educated. And he is. He's Brian Penn Johnson. He's educated. And so I think he gets offended that he's defined as a basketball player. He wants to be defined as educated. And you can see his disposition. And I know you can see his disposition when you watch. And as you watch it and you see how he describes, he wants to be defined as I'm educated, and I need you to respect me as an educated man. Like, I'm not just a young dumb basketball player that's running around. I'm educated, and he's a great writer in school. He has a lot of attributes, a lot of academia attributes, and he's one that wants to be defined in that way. And I think he's constantly fighting that. Like, you guys want to see me as this phenom basketball player. I'm 7 foot, but I'm Brian Van Johnson. Similar to how Kareem Abdul-Jabbar comes off. You know, it's like, bro, yeah, I'm 7 foot. I'm a basketball player, but I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm educated, and you're not going to talk to me that way because I have opinions. I have views in life, and this is the way I think it should be. This is how I feel about politics. This is how I feel about this and that. And I think that's a constant. Everybody sees him as a basketball player, but he wants to be educated and known as, look, hey, I've taken care of my family. I've gone through adversity. And I think he feels he's had some successes. And in his eyes, he's had success from where he's come from being homeless. He's going to tell you'll be able to hear the story about being homeless and being in a homeless shelter and having to take care of his sister, and his mom is away, and his mom having issues and him having to do that. Right. And he's wants to, I think, you know, to be defined in that way more so than this 7 foot phenom basketball player. So I think that's, but yet and still, my contribution to that is like, well, guess what? You are a 7 foot one. And there's this time period that you do have to be a basketball player, and you do have to be dominant, and you do have to play well, and you do have to perform because scholarships is on the line. And so we're back and forth on that. And at the end, you know, he ended up having a good finish, and you know, he's at a Division I now, and he's doing well. I think he's at the right level so that he can enjoy basketball right now. That's right. He's at the right level so he can enjoy it without all of the pressures. I had so many high majors, and everybody hit me up, and I'd say, you know what, man, he needs to go into basketball, and he's doing that right now.
That's great. That's great. I'm definitely rooting for him. He's at California Polytechnic State University. Yeah. Definitely rooting for him. So with this story with Josh Phillips, it was really interesting because I didn't see it either in the beginning of the series. And you talked about how you didn't know his situation and the fact that he was on the spectrum as far as autism. And you adjusted your coaching style to him. And you talked about how you felt bad because you didn't know. Like, you kept saying it, like, you know, he was like, I didn't know. So I'm looking at a response and I'm seeing something, and I'm not getting what I wanted, you know, how I wanted him to respond. But then I know, and then I responded differently. And you could see the shift as you was coaching him. And then you were talking about how it's just, you kept saying it's important for coaches to know the story and to know their players. And I cannot, like, that was such an important segment. You know, it was just a small segment, but it was so important because coaches need to know their players, and players are dealing with different things that coaches sometimes are unaware of. And most coaches don't do what you did as far as taking the time to find out what they didn't know and then make adjustments. And I thought that was just, you know, I really had to take my hat off to you and applaud you for that. And you saw the success that he was able to have in your system once you learned how to coach him. And now he's at Grambling State, and he's, you know what I mean, doing well. And so talk about that journey with him. That was so inspirational. Like, you know, that was really amazing.
Well, my introduction to Josh, first of all, he spent a year with us on Zoom. He left University of Portland. So my perception of University of Portland, it's a pretty good academic school. You got to do well in high school to get in, to be accepted. He got accepted with flying colors. I spoke with his mom. His mom is from Europe, and she's highly educated. She cared nothing. She knew nothing about the schools or the levels, so, you know, or JUCO or this. She could care less. She's like, look, I just need him educated. I need him getting good grades. And we were talking about it. So as I'm speaking with her, she's academia. Speaking with Josh, he's pretty articulate. And I'm like, you went to the University of Portland. You know, he grew up, or they lived, and he went to high school in Orange County. So he had a pretty decent surrounding. So on meeting him, and he's a good looking kid, you know, he's always decently groomed. And I'm like, hey, Josh, how you doing? Hey, how you doing, coach? He's well, he's articulate. He's very cordial. He responds well. And so as we get through practice. And I know, I say I'm going to poke at everybody to see if they got a tipping point. So as we go through and we progress, we get through conditioning and we're going through stuff. And I poke at him a little bit. And his response that I got, it was completely out of the character. It wasn't a progression of a response. Usually I poke at a guy and then they they'll pout or something. Right. And then I nip it in the bud. And then they progress with their pouting. His pouting, his response, it was like a complete 180. Like he was like, and I was like, whoa, where did that come from?
Right.
Nor did any player. They was like, what? The yes, sir, coach, yes, sir guy, the response, he just flipped in his body. It just seemed like he was about to lose it. And my immediate response is, bro, ain't nobody finna lose it in here, bro. Like, if you crazy, I'm crazy, Right. So that's like always my response for the guys coming from the hood that think they had it worse, that think they grew up around gangbangers and rape rough. And, I like, bro, I did the same. I grew up around all that. So, like, you ain't finna come at me like my cousin, I got family in jail. Like, bro, that don't scare me.
Right.
You like that response? Like, we can thug it out. I could be the more thug. So I'm going to break that response right now. I'm like coming at him like that. Like, man, you ain't finna have that response, bro. Like, if anybody going to be crazy, I'm crazy, and I'm going like that. And I'm coming at him like, look at that, poor response. And I'm thinking like in my heart, usually when I come at guys, I'm coming like, and I'm trying to break that out of him. But I was coming at him like, this ain't right. This don't feel right.
Right.
It don't feel right how I'm coming at him. It just don't feel right because that's not right. What he's going through is not right. And so I just toned down a little bit and I let him come back. And then he would have episodes. So I've noticed it was episodes and it would have nothing to do with me coaching him or it would just happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, and I started to notice that as we went through the weeks. And then a coach called me, man, and he told me, and he said, hey, man, how's Josh? I love that kid. He's da-da-da-da. He plays hard. He's a special. He's a beast. He blocks everything, whatever. How's he doing with his autism? And I just froze. Mm-hmm. I said, what? I didn't say what to the coach. I was like, yeah, he's doing all right. He's right. Doing great. But before that, I started to pause and watch his responses. And I'm like, man, he's just not. What's wrong with this kid? Like, it's not adding up. Good parent, good family, educated. He's smart. He does his schoolwork. He's intelligent. He's a good student. Like, it's just not adding up. What the heck is going on? Is he pretending to be? And then when the coach told me that, like, I literally just dropped. Like, my heart just dropped. I'm just like, oh my gosh, bro. And I literally was just like dropped. And then literally a week later, he volunteered the information with me. I had already started to prepare to say, you know what? I need to change the response. I need to change how I come at him. Mm-hmm. Literally, every time I walked up to him from that point on, he would maybe, do something that, that wasn't right. Maybe he wouldn't play, go hard enough or go get a rebound or do something. And normally some guys, I'm like, man, you got to go get that. Go get that rebound. Your life depends on it, blah, blah, blah. I would walk up to him and say, Josh, I would pause. Bro, you got to get that rebound. And like literally just calm down with him and approach. I got you, coach. And then it was like a totally different disposition in speaking with him. And I know they showed a little bit in the film every time you come to the side because there's anxiety that builds up, and you have to deal with the autism. And I can see it when he's playing. Mm-hmm. There's one episode where he's just like, and he's built up. We're playing Mount Sac and I can see it coming. And like, bro, when that anxiety builds up, I even feel sorry. Like Coach Rob said, man, I got to get you out of these drills. Coach Rob says it, man, let me get Josh out of these drills before he hurts somebody. Because anxiety goes and he's just like a monster and he's like coming malicious. And you just got to take him and tap him on the shoulder. Hey, Josh, and completely change the subject. Hey, Josh, literally, I would do stuff like this. He'd go in practice and he's just like, and he's turning. And I say, hey, Josh, did you ever respond to your English teacher? Did your English teacher and like literally flip it? And he would just like, yeah, I did. I talked to her. I emailed the English teacher. Okay, cool. let's look and see what the email said after practice. All right. And he would be like, okay, coach. And he'd go back and he would settle down. And it was just things like that you would have to do to do that. Like I literally would have to completely flip his disposition or the environment. I would change the setting. You know what I'm saying? I would just change the setting. We'd be in the game and he would get a foul and he'd be like, I didn't foul, and going off crazy like that. And I'd be like, Josh, come here. Hey, tuck your shirt in. I think the ref is trying to he's trying to get a call for you for not tucking your shirt in. Oh, okay, coach. He tuck his shirt in. And then he would change, like literally. Those are some of the things, man. And I'm just, my heart is like, man, I just hope people get it. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's different. And I just hope they get it, man. And it's frustrating for me. And I don't get it right away. And it's not perfect. But I want to get it. That's the thing. I want to get it. There's some people that say they want to help. Oh, I really want to help. What can I do to help? I'm getting thousands of emails. What can I do to help? And I'm just like, if you really want to help, you got to sit and learn and go through what these kids are. You got to live these burdens with these kids. You got to burden yourself as they're living through the burdens.
That is so amazing. And not every coach is willing to do that. And the fact that you all showed that, I can't even say enough. It was absolutely amazing. I'm not going to ask you about all the players, but each one has, like I said, each one has such a story that you can carve out and just examine them by themselves. And that's what makes this show, so special, because everybody has a story. And it's all things that you can learn from. I'm going to keep saying it, but really, every middle school and high school athlete should watch this and pay close attention to it, and then watch it with somebody who can break things down to you as far as what you're seeing and the lessons that are involved. So I want to ask you about Damian Whitlock.
Mm-hmm.
And
Damani.
Yeah, Damani. And his, it was interesting because in the beginning, and you could see the hurt in your face as, the coaches were telling you about his report and what the doctors were saying. And he found he might have an enlarged heart and he might have to stop and, everything like that. And they didn't know what was going to happen. And he was such a, the way when he battled back, when he came back, and the way that he plays and the heart that he shows, it's just talk about him for a while, because I thought he was amazing, and he was one of those glue guys that every team needs. You know what I mean? Every team needs a player like him. But talk about Damani Whitlock.
So his story is within. So like he's a kid who had, he's got a great dad, great mom. They support him well. So he's not the kid that's out there homeless and, parents made sure he had a car so he can drive here. They make sure he's got lunch. Mm-hmm. So that's not his, the issue with him. His story, which was compelling, and it started at the beginning. Literally the first day when you saw him on the ground, it was literally the first day. And his chest tightened up. Literally the first day. We found out the next day that he may have an enlarged heart and he has got a heart issue that they didn't catch. And I'm like, bro, are you kidding me? So we literally have, maybe 3 or 4 point guards and in our line. So I'm thinking like, yeah, he can battle for a spot or battle for, maybe to be a starter. But then when he goes out, I'm thinking like he's done. Like there's nobody that comes in my program and misses practices and misses time. He missed all the way up until a week until our first game.
Wow.
He couldn't run. He couldn't get on a treadmill because of he was not. So you're talking about this happened early in September, and then he could not do anything but lift a little bit. Now, he said he did some on his own because he was like, I just can't, but he could not do anything. He was not released to do anything up until a week before our first game. Mm-hmm. We go through our first game, and all of those other guys, I got like 3 other point guards, that are well ahead of him. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I'm playing these guys. You're not going to get it. And he knew it. He suited up. He's just like, I know, coach. I'm just coming to practice. And he's in there, and he's grinding in practice. And he's literally suited up. And I'm like, I'm not going to play him because it's not fair to those other three guys. Mm-hmm. But as we progressed and we didn't have the part of it is because, I told you the pandemic, we couldn't develop our team like we normally do in the summer. Mm-hmm. We were always sputtering, and it was just like, man, we're kind of sputtering and we never getting it going. So I tried a next point guard and just like try different rotations and different lineups, and we was doing different things. Mm-hmm. Still never played Damani, right? Because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, this kid's got a red shirt. Like, he's got a red shirt, man. There's no way he's going to be able to do this and come back and fight his way back. He won't get any minutes. I'm not going to play him because I don't want to start his clock for this season. Okay. And then we going on, and then we get closer and closer. And then we were about a month and a half in, and I'm still not liking how we're kind of functioning and gelling. But in practice, I'm looking at this dude just like defending and just charges, he's doing everything that I want to be done. And he's on the opposite team. Like, we call it the white team. The green team is the main team. You got the white team. And he's just like killing the white team and just diving and getting every ball and running the offense the right way and just all of that. And so I finally come to him. We're about 8 or 9 games in. And I said, Damani, all right, I think I progressed through everybody, and I think I'm ready to take a look at you. I said, but the problem is, bro, you this far in, and if it don't work out, like if you don't, if you're not, because these dudes are still ahead of you, but I'm willing to give you a little bit in the game. Mm-hmm. And I said, if it don't work out, bro, it's a chance that it's still going to be spot minutes. And this is your, because he came from a Division II, he transferred in. So this is it. This is your year. And I said, do you want me to play you? I'll play you a little bit this game. I think you could play this game. I just want to take a look. I said, or we can redshirt, bro, and you can have a whole year next year and you be straight and ready to go. He said, no, coach, play me. He said, play me. I can help the team. I can help the team. Play me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, bro, if it don't, if I don't see the performance, if I don't see what I want to see, it's a chance it's going to be spot minutes. He said, coach, just play me. I can help the team. He comes into this first game, and we ended up having a 20-point win. I sub him in, and it was just this, this is my word. I use the Steve Kerr word. It says he's using this word force. It was this force of nature that just happened. Mm-hmm. Just charge and just defensive presence on the ball, and just the way he got us into our offense and the explosiveness of earlying the ball up and just boom, boom, boom. And I was just like, oh, like, how you finally feel it. I was like, that's what I was looking for. Right. And I didn't know if it was going to come from him or whatever. That's what I was looking for. And so he works his way up from being the 4th point guard, and he works his all the way up. By January, mid to end of January, he was in the starting lineup. Mm-hmm. And I just said, I can't go with, and I changed the lineup. I'm going to just go with force. And then that's where I figured out Josh had this force if I coached him right. And Damani had this force. And another guy, Corey Cofield, mm-hmm. Well, I was like, man, this kid ain't going to play because he can't shoot. But he had this force, and we kind of changed the lineup. And then we went on like a 17-game win streak until we lost in the playoffs. Right. We didn't lose a game until we lost that final game in the playoffs. But it was Damani, and he worked his way up. And that kid, I got a heart for that kid. And I tried to, and this is the biggest sacrifice. He comes in, and I was just crying out to everybody, like, man, stop reading the stats. He could not get a stat rhythm because he jumped in and he's a starter. And all he did was what we needed to change our culture of our team. Uh-huh. He didn't get a chance in September to establish himself as the drive and kick and then relocate, spot up 3-point shooter. He was to get us into our offense, take a charge. He was going to get defensive rebounds that, guys was missing, the long rebounds. He was diving for balls, chasing for balls. So he was not the scorer that he needed to be. So his percentage was low. I said, he can shoot it. His percentage is low. It's just because he just jumped in. He's just like a utility guy. He's playing like a utility guy. He's not. And I was trying to get guys, and he's at a Division II right now in Texas. Mm-hmm. But I was just like, man, come on, you guys can't believe how important he is. Yeah, but I'm looking at his stats. I'm going to go with this guy. I got so many guys that text me. Like 5 guys text me after the show came out. He's like, Coach, we should have took Damani. And I was like, I told you, man. I told you should have taken him. He is truly that kid. He's a program changer, and he don't have to score a bucket, and he's a program changer. And so those are kids that every coach needs to have, and those are kids that taught the other guys on the team's lessons, and they loved him, and they seen that, and they saw the impact that he had without even being a great scorer.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for him as well. I love the story that Coach told about him when he had his tooth knocked out, and then he said he was taking a charge, and he said the guy cracked him or whatever, and then he fell on the ground, and the whole crowd was like, because they heard everything, and he's searching for his tooth, and he picks up the tooth, puts it in his shorts, and then right back down on defense. You know what I mean? Ready to play, like that type of player, and that you can't teach that. That's just something that they either just have or they don't have. Exactly. And he's definitely a special player. All right, I'm gonna ask you one more question about a different player, and then we'll move on. And I want to ask you about Demetrius Caleb, DC. And I have to ask you about him. There was so much, it's interesting. And when they were showing him at the times where he wasn't playing, and it looked like he was almost starting to become a cancer. Like he was at the end of the bench. He started getting, you know how sometimes when guys aren't really playing a lot, they start to go towards the other guys who aren't playing a lot to talk about why they're not playing and why things are so messed up and what coach doing and what. So it seemed like he was kind of starting to do that with Shamar. Like you saw him sitting next to Shamar all the time, whispering, "Man, what coach? I mean, we can do this. Like what they need right now, we both could do." Like it's just that stuff that happens. Which you saw that kind of forming, and then you saw the frustration in him, and I don't want to say ego, but he thought very highly of himself. Yeah. He can play. I'm not saying he shouldn't think highly of himself. But that's how I would describe that he did kind of think a little bit too highly of himself at times. And it was almost as if he felt he was above the situation that he was in. And you needed to break that from him then he would be able to play. Was that all right in my assessment?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I'll tell you this. This may be the first time I'm sitting here and I'm still like we playing last night and I'm still dealing with Demetrius, and he's still a special talent. It's like you put him in and you play, and me and the coaches were just having a conversation yesterday. He was asking me, like, why did you take DC out at this time? And why? And I said, man, I just got to give him enough to want more. And in order to get more, you got to kind of have to align with our beliefs. And I had a conversation with DC last week. I said, DC, I said, you're right. I said, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. But I said, I have an opinion too, and I'm the leader of the program. Whatever you believe, however you feel we should play, however shots you should take, whatever that, you're absolutely right in your eyes. But ultimately, you have to align with the way you want to play defense. He's like, well, coach, he was going here, but DC, you can't play defense that way for the sake of the whole team. You're absolutely right. If you maybe chase them here or you go over the top there, you're right. But for our team defense, we need you to do this. And so again, it takes stop, self-explain, and try to break it down instead of just writing him off. I mean, he left from a Division I think Chicago, Illinois, he was at a Division I as well during the pandemic year, so he didn't lose a year. So he's here with me twice. He's at a Division I, and I think probably they dealt with some of that, and they was like, "Oh, we're not tolerating this." But he thinks super highly of himself, and I love his spirit of that. I love his spirit of that. But there has to be a partnership, and I think we're developing a partnership now. We're partnering with his ego. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got to deal with. It's almost like, okay, if guys are the level that they have, and they have a certain value, then you have to partner with that. To me, and the value that they have is not a bad value. I can't be so old school. It's like, no, take off. So like he's so into social media, but if he's good at doing all the TikTok stuff and doing all that and still coming and performing, then you know what? Then let him be who he is. And right now he's just all on me and him. He's like, "Coach, look at my followers." He's like, I'm telling you, I'm gonna get a Mercedes deal. I'm gonna get him. I'm like, okay, DC. All right. Like he's really feeling himself on that. Yeah. I'm telling you, I know how to do this social media thing, coach. I'm telling you, so I think with him and what we've done, I said, okay, let me try to partner with that. Let me try to say, okay, let's share. Okay, DC, I'm gonna post you. Let's post, we did some stuff like that. And he was so pumped. Like I shared with him some opportunities. We were just in a hotel. I brought him in my hotel room just 2 days ago. I said, hey, come here. What do you think about this opportunity? All right, I'm going to reach out to these people. And he was just lit up and he was so excited. So I'm trying to figure out ways where I can, he's all into that. He feels like he's going to get a big NIL deal. He's all into that. So I'm figuring out ways like, okay, if I can get him excited to listen to me, maybe he'll trust me more to say, I'm going to just do what coach says here, And he had a moment, and this is one of my favorite moments just yesterday. So like the progression of like Shamar and him, you didn't see the maximum of the change. We're getting it right now. Right. Yesterday we had a game and there was a defensive possession and it was a miscue and he kind of was the wrong way. And he knew he was wrong. Last year he'd have been like, well, I did it because such and such and such and such. That don't make sense. I don't know why we play defense this way. We should be doing this. But he got like backdoored on the play, right? And his body position was off. And he would have the phenomenal excuse of why his body position was a certain way. But yesterday he was just like, yeah. And then I subbed him out and he came out and he had a sense of remorse. And I was like, there we go right there. That's all, that was the change. He had a sense of remorse. And I think a part of that comes from just developing the trust, man, to say, okay, bro, I'm a partner with you. You believe some stuff. This is who you are. I see I'm not going to break that. Let's see how we can make the best of that. Let's see how we can, we can make best of that. And so it's a completely different way to handle him. You're not going to tear DC down, break him down, make him humble, and then build him back up. That's a strategy I kind of use with a lot of the guys. Like, they walk through the door, I'm like, bro, you're not that good. If you can't do this thing, you're not that good. You're not that good. You're not that good. And then they start doing some of the things they're supposed to do, jump stops and rebounding and playing tough and hard. You're good. You're going to win. Let's go. Let's show the world. But DC, bro, you're not that good. Stop shooting step back 40-footers. No, I am that good. Step back 40-footer mate, So it's just like it's a partnership and it's a challenge and it's a spirit and I think the one thing, here's what I told him. I said, look, DC, you actually, I'm okay with the way you play. I'm okay with the freedom you do. You make some amazing plays that nobody can make. There's special play. There's some freak amazing plays that you make that I'm like, I can't stop you from doing that. Right. But what I need you to do, and it's just like everybody else, is I need your response to change because I don't care about the play, but it's your response because that response, when you move on, he's like, okay, coach, okay. He's still trying to figure it out, but your response to criticism or your response to instruction, I need you to partner with me on that. And then I'll let you have the freedom because it's like plug and play, bro. You're not going to run no plays, but you make some special plays that we need that most players can't do. So that's still a work in progress and we're doing it. And I'm understanding them a little bit more. And he's understanding how to take, how to fall under leadership and not fall under leadership and not assuming that everybody's beneath him. Because you're right. You're spot on. He thinks, his dad was in it. His dad, that's a great resource to have a father that played in the NBA, played at the University of Michigan and played. That's a great resource. Of course. And I'm pretty sure his father has, tons of information, more so than I do. He played at a higher level and all that. But the way you use that information is not to demean anybody else. And so he has that sense of demeaning that great information, that great resource. He just kind of demeans, oh, this is JUCO. You guys suck. You don't know. When you're ready to win, put me in,
I think is great. And I can't say it enough. I love the way that the show shows that those type of breakdowns of each player, and you see the attributes and you see what they bring to the table and the struggles and the triumphs. I'm gonna actually have my son, over this break, since he's gonna have a little break from school. I have him write papers sometimes, and I have to write a player analysis of each player. And break down, because I really, there's so many lessons to be taught, to be learned from each player. All right, so I'm going to go through a few of these questions. I posed them on social media, and a lot of people responded. So they could be quick answers, they don't have to be long, but I want to go through them because I told them, the feedback was so great. All right, so first, John Webster asked, he said at the end, he's talking about you. He said, Coach Mosley said at the end that we won't see him on TV. Does that mean no season 3?
Well, I think a lot of people, and me, and some of the opinions that I got are things that people have said in terms of negative, in terms of some of my colleagues, not anybody out in the mainstream. It's just like, you just doing this for the show. And I'm like, bro, I'm not doing this for no show, man. I'm doing this to help people. They cold called me. They asked me if I would be interested. I said no initially, but then I did it. And I think it's had an impact on how we see junior college basketball here in California and across, an impact on coaching and all that. I didn't know it was going to have the impact. I didn't know what was going to come of it, but I see his help. And so my message is, like, for all the haters who think I made $1 million or he's just doing it for the money. He's paying players. He's doing this. He's doing, like, bro, that's really what I mean. It's like, I'm not trying to be famous. I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm just trying to help kids. Got you.
Well, I hope you keep doing it, because season 1 and season 2 has been great. I hope they keep it going. Amen New, that's a Twitter name. Amen New said, is he actively taking care of himself, both physically and mentally? Dealing with those kids are a task, and is he in some kind of therapy or watching his diet, getting physicals, blood work? People just want you to be healthy, both physically and emotionally and mentally. So
I do teach the fitness classes. The pandemic, as you notice, I had gained some weight because of on the second season. Pandemic, we sat around and didn't do much, and I spent a lot of time with my kids, training my son, my daughters, and all that. And so I wasn't as active for almost 1.5 years. We didn't have any fitness classes. So that's a great question. And I'm not doing as well as I should be doing. I mean, I'm fine in regards to my faith and peace, and I'm sleeping at night. My family's healthy. Our family health is great. We don't have any family issues. That part is great. But in terms of, I could eat a little better, and I could work out a little bit more because I'm consumed with so much. And not only that, man, just the time with my family that it takes. So that's a great question. And yes, I can do better.
Okay. And along those same lines, Chavis Consulting asked, how does he balance the team and his family? His interactions with his family were awesome, and they all seem so close. How does he manage that, especially during the basketball season?
Well, I think, you know what? I think my family is me being a part of it. My family is a part of it, and we've accepted that call. It's almost like a ministry. Our family is a ministry. It doesn't take away from, and we make sure that our family is a ministry and that we're an example for families. So we're all in on ELAC basketball as a family. And then at the same, we're all in on Sunday school at church. And when it's time for my son's game, we're all in at his basketball. And let's go to the AAU and the travel circuit. And then my daughter, the travel circuit. And then my daughter was softball travel. And then my wife was taking my wife speaks 3 languages. And she double major. She wanted to speak Chinese, and she speaks Chinese and Spanish fluently. And she lived in those countries, and she's like smart. That's where everybody gets it from, So like just out of the blue here, and it caused all of us had to sacrifice. But my wife said, I got to brush up on my Chinese. I want to take a Chinese class. So here in the fall, she took a Chinese class, and it was like, dude, we all had to do more because we were all in on her taking a Chinese class. She couldn't run my daughter here or there. She's like, I got class tonight. I got it. So we're all in. My son, you drive your sister here or there. Okay, mom's got the Chinese class tonight. We need to make sure that, Mariah, you cook dinner, So I think we're all in as a family on whatever we're committed to. And I think that's what makes it work. We're all in, They were all watching my game online. They all had their phones and watching my game online. Daddy's playing the number they're the number 5 team. They're playing the number 3 team tomorrow. They were all, I got home, like 12:30 in the morning. It's like, Daddy, you won a good game. You guys won. I saw they were pretty good. And I'm like, they were all in. Everybody's all in on everything. And I think it starts with the family. It starts at home, and the family has to be committed to each other. And then that commitment can carry over to everything else that you're involved in. Got you.
Terry Dixon asked, has Coach Mosley received any offers to coach the D1 program?
Yeah, not any head coaching jobs, but tons of I got 2 high major offers, and a lot of mid-major and low major offers to go. It's got to be the perfect scenario to just take my family and move. I mean, it's a completely different world when you go, and it's a change of lifestyle. It's a change of coaching. It's totally different. Here, I'm home here with the family. I come in, I coach, I get to go home every night. Our recruiting is pretty much local, so I don't have to travel and spend time away from family and home. So right now, this works for me, and no amount of money can change that. I think it can change that for something that I wouldn't be comfortable with. If I get an opportunity where I can kind of control, a lot more, because and I can kind of control my lifestyle and my family and control the program from top to bottom, then I may consider that. But I've been there, man. I kind of know how it is, and it'd be tough to move on. But I had several offers. Yeah.
Okay. And let's see here. Francis Bolden, which was kind of a follow-up to that question. He said, would you be open if the right situation did present itself to moving up to a D1 coaching position?
Possibly, but as I said before, I would have to be able to do what I'm doing right now, which is to be passionately involved in these young men's life. Mm-hmm. And when you get to the next level, especially the high major, is hard. You can have your mentor that just passed away.
Coach
you can have those mm-hmm. in your life, but it's harder. It's harder to have that at the next level. And me being a coach, I'll be so consumed with trying to make sure I'm keeping my job, because I mean, it's a 3-year turnover, you got 3 years, and if you don't get it done, you're gone. You'll be so consumed with that. Then I'm just afraid I may miss that part of what I love doing, because I'll be so consumed with making sure I keep my job and making sure I'm winning games, making sure I'm securing television contracts, and making sure I'm meeting the demands of fundraising. But yeah, the right situation, possibly, but I would have to be doing this. But I'll tell you this, every time I think about, I get tired. I'm like, dude, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I need to move on where it's not as exhausting, and it's not as pulling and as draining. But then I look back and I look at the guys I may be leaving behind, or somebody that needs help, and it's like, it's just hard to do, man. I use the analogy. It's like, I'll go to the store and I say, let me have some me time. I don't know if kids are at home or if family's at home. Mm-hmm. I go buy me my favorite meal, and I'll go buy it and I grab it and take it home. I think nobody's at home. And then I come home and my daughter walks out and she said, "Oh, you didn't give me anything?" And I'm like, scratch my head, and I'm like, "Nah, here, you want it?" And she's like, "Yeah, thanks." And I'm like, go ahead, you got it. And it's like that love you have is like, I can't not give my daughter this food. She's looking at me like, "Daddy, did you give me some?" Yeah. And I'm like, "Here, you can have it. I'll go ahead and make me a peanut butter and jelly."
That's a great analogy too.
It's hard to look back at those guys and not want to help them through. And I make a decent salary as a professor. It's decent. Can I triple and double it? Yeah, but it's well enough. I can live in a home, and my kids are going to private school, so it's well enough to do that. So and to that point, Lisa Hand Houston asked, is ELAC as invested in your program as you are? Because sometimes it seems like everything is bare bones. Yeah, so this district, there's 9 schools in our district, which is the largest in the country of junior colleges. You're talking about a big budget. You're talking about a big district. California, in terms of community colleges, they are focused a little bit more on in terms of, and we transfer well, so we should be getting more help and more support. Mm-hmm. But I think as a whole, top to bottom, are more focused on just certifying, certificating, vocational trainings. It's more of just a stop for adult learning. And they really, in terms of the resources and support in athletics, the turnover in administration is so much that once we convince administration, like, hey, you know what, you guys are doing a great job. Let's make sure you have the resources. Once we get new turnover, new administration come in. And what's unfortunate is our CEOs, the CEOs nowadays, the leaders nowadays are not athletes. And a lot of them weren't, our educators weren't student athletes. In the past, you'd get a college president who was on a football team, and he's like, yeah, we want to support, and we're not getting that anymore. And so because of that, I think there's change. So I don't want to throw anybody under the bus or anything under the bus, but I think it's changed. The focus has changed. If I'm a college president or if I'm a chancellor or whatever, I'm going to promote athletes. I'm going to be like, no, this is my philosophy on how education, we should have our sports program should be a great marketing tool for our campuses and an enrollment builder and just all that, and be a face for our program, like, Syracuse, like UCLA. Like, who would know about Duke University if the basketball program wasn't where it was at? Who would know about, Alabama if Bear Bryant and Nick Saban, didn't build those programs to where they at? And so the CEOs, I think the philosophies of the CEOs is a different climate. And so I think it's seen as an intramurals or a recreation. That's just the way it is. So there's not much support here in California the way it should be. There's some schools in specific that say, you got some leaders, and it's not a knock on it. It's just the focus in California community college is different. And the state funds each school based on certain performances, certain graduation rates, or certain certificates. You get a certain amount of certificates done at your school, you get state funded. So I think the chancellors and presidents are focused on that. Us winning a basketball game doesn't get us a television contract. You win games in the Pac-12, you get Pac-12 contracts. You get a new deal, whether it's Fox or ESPN or whatever. You're looking for that. So winning is important. And then that money filters to the conference, and the conference gets it to the school. So in terms of revenue generating, I will say our student athletes generate revenue because for every completion, which we complete earlier than the traditional student at the junior college, the traditional student finishes in 3 and 4 years in terms of transferring. We transfer out in 2 years. So you get more money. There's incentivized, and this is an argument we have, there's incentivized funding that comes into the school. So we get more money because we're leaving them out in 2 years. Not only that, they're males. You get more money for males, and you get more money for academic males. So there's a funding system that comes. If you are graduating African-American males, which is the lowest in community college across the country in terms of graduating. Next is Latino males, and then next I think it goes to Latinas, and then it goes to Asian males or something like that, East Asian. But we're the lowest performing. They've done the research. We're the lowest performing. African-American males are the lowest performing at community colleges across the country. And so there's a funding formula that says it's incentivizes if you graduate African-American males. Well, guess what? All my guys graduate. So we try to share that argument. We're graduating them. That's a bonus check you get.
Right.
We're graduating them in 2 years. That's a bonus check you get. We're graduating males. That's another bonus check you get. We're graduating African Americans. That's another bonus. So we're getting bonus checks for graduating them with all of those funding formulas. And so we should see more, but we just haven't seen it yet.
Got you. Let me just get like maybe 2 more. I got so many, but I'm not going to read all. Bernard Robinson, he asked, he said, please ask what coach thinks about prep kind of taking the role of JUCO and what he feels about state of AAU player development.
Yeah, well, the AAU is too much basketball. I learned that this summer. My son was in the 9th grade, and going into his, he was in the 9th grade playing varsity, and going into his sophomore year, the pandemic hit. Right at the end of he's going to the state championship. I was going to the state championship. We literally took a picture on my porch. Father, son, both going to state championship. And then it's canceled. That summer, no AAU ball that summer.
Right.
The next summer, it was sporadic. It was pushed back. So that's going into his junior year. So It wasn't as much. I felt like, because my son is on the borderline of getting to Division I, Division II, I felt like I got to get him in. It was the worst summer that he's had, and we should have stuck with just developing and just playing a couple games. I put him in every tournament, every showcase. Every coach wanted to see him. We did the Under Armour circuit, and we were all over the place from Atlanta to Georgia. And then we had showcases. California has tons of showcases and development. We went to, he got invited to Steph Curry's camp. We just did everything you can go to. And there was the first time, similar to your son, and I watched your son play, they got a little piece of us in us. They got some junkyard dogs, some grimy. My son is grimy, and this was the first time that I saw my son not spirited. And he got to the end of the summer. It was mid-July, because we had started right after the season. He was this camp, that camp. He went to Steph Curry's thing. He went to this thing. He went to that thing. And this was the first time we got to July, and it was the tail end where everybody was like, we got to go see Jackson Mosley. We got to go see him. He was lifeless. It was too much basketball. And then it was too much. Yeah. And so I think it's too much. There's events going on every week. These event planners are scheduling. They're finding days, every seam, if they say an event starts, I've seen one event, they say event starts on Saturday. They called it like a midnight madness. So the event started on 12 a.m.
Yeah.
It's that bad. They're trying to squeeze everything in. And I don't think that part is good. And so some of the development, there are some club programs that develop. The prep school has taken a lot of kids. Prep schools can be great if they have the resources, but there are a lot of startup prep schools that are still in kids' years, because I think it'd be best if they compete against men and go to junior colleges and even come redshirt at a junior college, because you're in your weight program. You're competing against other men at a high level. You have facilities. There's these prep programs, prep schools, and they don't have facilities. They're not training daily. You're losing a year academic. Just take 1 or 2 classes. You're using a year of academics. And so if you got a great prep school program with facilities and an academic program, I think it's great, and I think you should use it if you need a year of development. But the startup ones are the ones that are the kids are losing their social life. Like my son, I'm like, nah, man. So many people, after they saw how he was mid-year, I was like, no, you're going to high school. You're going to prom. You're doing that. You're going to have a social experience to snatch them up, to go to some farm basketball school and not have the experience and stinking do basketball like a concentration camp, like a camp.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not doing that, bro. You're going to you're going to prom, you're going to go to a high school party. You're going to come home and learn how to do all that. You're going to go to school. You're going to learn how to train. You're going to learn you're going to have a social life. You're going to come home to family. You're going to go to church. You're going to have a normal life. Like, bro, we're not going to do that. And so there's some schools that do that. I'm not in agreement with that at all. And they do a great job. And some kids that want to go to the NBA and that's their whole focus, that's fine. That's for you. And it works out, and they go to the NBA but no, in my opinion, I think those experiences, I went through high school. I had a high school experience, and I think that's important. But the prep schools, it's got to be a prep school that has good credibility and has resources. Yeah. I think the junior college is missing some of those kids that should be with us.
Well, let me ask you this: if you could go back, how would you do because my son's 1 year younger than your son. Yeah. So we're about to go into what your son just went through with the AAU, going into, his last year in high school. If you went back, how would you have structured it, since you said it was too much? In the circuit, the circuit's a lot, and you were going to showcases all over the place. How would you restructure his summer going into his senior year?
So I wouldn't compromise I wouldn't go into it compromising his performance where he performs well. We would just have these set weekends. Okay, we'll go to a couple of big ones and we decide you got to go to the circuit. You got to go with your team on the circuit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We know that.
Right.
That's really not what consumes the kid. It's the other stuff in between that consumes them. And I think you got to be strategic about that. I would literally say once we came off the circuit, I would go back to one-on-one. Let's get some conditioning. Let's get some strength training back again. Yeah. Let's get some shots up and let's work. Not come home and then 2 days or a day later go to the local showcase to do a favor for a guy and get you some free shoes.
Right.
And then, go to another showcase and play and then go back on the circuit. That's what we did. And that's what I wouldn't do. We went circuit, showcase, and get the whole free gear, shoes, another showcase, and then go back on the circuit. Yeah, I would spend that time saying, you know what, we're going to develop our skills so that when you go back on the circuit or we go to the events that we decided to go to, that you can perform great, that you don't have any letdowns. And my son does the best. Your son, whatever it takes for your son or our sons to have the best performance, I think you need to cut out the extracurricular and do that before you go back to the events you decided to do. So the big events that we decided to do, we should have just said, let's stay home, come back in the gym, get on the gun, get your 500 makes up, get in the weight room. Let's get our explosive workout again. Let's get some cardio in so that when we go back on the circuit, you making those shots. But I saw a letdown in his performance and his enthusiasm because his conditioning dropped. Because he was in better shape than everybody because I said that's going to be part of your T. Your strength and all that is going to be a part of your T. But his advantage, he lost his advantages because we were playing too much. His advantage was come back, work, go back, play. Come back, work, go back, play. We went play, and we never came back and worked. We went and played. And that's what I think we needed to do. Come back, work, get your rest. Let those other guys go on social media and play in those social media events. Yeah. We were trying to do all that, and it just didn't work out. Yeah. He's good. He's good. And I was panicked. I called his high school coach. I said, man, did I burn him out? I was like, oh, my gosh. I've never seen my son like that. Wow. Never seen him passionate. I've never seen him not like he picks up 94 feet. I've never seen him because I told him, you're a small guard. You got to do it. I've never seen him that way. And I just literally panicked. I thought I lost him. His high school coach said, man, just tell him to take a month. Just take couple weeks off. He took a couple weeks off. I said, bro, go with your friends. He went to the amusement park. Yeah. I said, hey, what you want? Here's some money. Because I was like, dude, I think I burnt him out. What do you want? Here's some money. Go to the mall. Go do something. Get away from me. Get away from dad. And he finally got his juices back. And we got back in the gym. He got his flow back. And he had a great fall. And now he's averaging 17. And, from a point guard standpoint, he's got to take on the responsibility. Team is winning. Team is ranked in the state. Team is ranked in the, he plays in the league with Bronny. And, he's in the Catholic School League with Notre Dame and Chaminade and Harvard Westlake. And, who did you guys play when he came out of here? I'm not sure who he played. Yeah, my wife went out there. I don't actually remember the team. I know that they played the one team where Master P's son was on. Yeah, that's Notre Dame. So we got Notre Dame. We got so there's a bunch of teams on it. And so he's doing great. But that would be my advice, and I would give that to anybody, man. I would say you want them at their peak performance. Map out what you're gonna do. Take some time off. Come back and work. Whatever your routine is, do that routine. Go back out. Come back. Do your routine. As a pro, you know more than most of us. You got to stick with your routine, and you can't deviate from it. Yeah. You have to have downtime. You have to have time of recovery, time of rest, time away from it. You know what I mean? You have to have all of that. But I think that's really great. Well, listen, I kept you way longer than I planned to, but it was great. I can sit down and talk to you all day. I really could because there's so many nuggets that you're dropping each time that you talk and each time you answer a question, and the passion and the commitment. And this is the way that
coaching is supposed to be, the way the what you're, and that's why I said, and I honestly mean this, I hope that Netflix continues to do these documentaries every single season. I hope that it brings more resources to ELAC. I hope it, shows the importance of why they, should showcase the athletic program to bring more everything, that kind of should be that way. But really, you're inspiring and teaching coaches how to coach.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you're seeing the results. You're in situations where a lot of coaches would have been like, oh, we don't know how to deal with a person who is autistic. We don't know how to deal with a Joe Hampton that has, issues that he's blowing up. Like, we don't know how to deal with, and they kind of panic. But you're showing that, no, you could get through any situation with the proper guidance. Right. And that is so vital. So in what they're doing on the court, what they want to achieve on the court, and then preparing them for life. So I just want to thank you. Again, I know I said it last time when we did the interview, but I want to say it again. I love what you're doing. I have immense respect for you, and really take care of yourself too, and take care of your mental health and your physical health and emotional and spiritual and everything. And keep what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, because our young men need coaches like you. And then, like I say, you're showing other coaches all around the country at every different level how to coach. You know what I mean? So it's really important. So much respect to you.
Yeah. Well, E, I just want to say much respect to you. You keep being a voice. I'm following you. You keep being a voice. There's a lot of people that's following you, and there's a lot of people that's happy that you are a voice for people of color, and that you speaking out on a lot of topics and a lot of issues. There's a lot of us that are afraid to be canceled, so we just kind of sit back, but we waiting for the voices to step out. But we glad you're on the front lines.
I appreciate it. All right. Well, much respect to you. Thanks again for coming on the Rematch, and God bless you for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right. Appreciate it.
Yeah.